Welcome to the help desk. These videos are designed because I got a question that was sent into my email address, preacherpreparation@gmail.com, preacherpreparation@gmail.com. And so if you have a question about Logos, feel free to send it to that email address. Also, I send out subscriber only content each week, so go to preacherprep.com and put your email address in the weekly roundup box on the right hand side, and you'll get free training sent to your email every week, along with recommended resources, a sermon illustration, all sorts of things. So preacherprep.com. Today's video is about how to use the Sermon Builder, and this video is going to be a little bit longer because the Sermon Builder is such a robust feature. What the Sermon Builder is, and the reason it's called Sermon Builder is because in that document you build your sermon, all the things connected to the sermon. So not only are you writing your manuscript or outline, but you're also putting together your slides, and you're also putting together a handout, which is perfect for like a bulletin that if you use fill in the blanks, you can do fill in the blanks just in the same document, and it's going to show up. It's very cool. You can have a questions document that would work really good in like a small group. You're doing all of that at once. I build all my sermons within the Sermon Builder. I don't use all those features, but it's got really, I think, small to mid-sized pastors in mind who don't have like a team of people to do those sorts of things like slide creation, or maybe you don't have anyone at your church who knows how to make slides, and it's just like one thing that can take off your plate. With that being said, because it's designed and it's automatic, it's not as fully featured as far as like slide creation as other software, but it's very cool. I've used that portion all the time just to put the slides together, because you can put your scripture up on a slide and you can put some text up on a slide, have a nice background, it looks great, and be on your way and not spend much time having to create slides. So it's called the Sermon Builder. So that's what we're going to be doing. To open up a Sermon Builder document, there's two ways of doing it. You can go to the Sermon Manager, which we're going to talk about in an upcoming video, or you can open up the Sermon Builder document. And I'm going to open that here in the the document menu. I'm going to go to New and go to Sermon. So now I've got a sermon open, and it would probably help if you didn't see me full face like that. So we've got this Sermon Builder document, and there's a lot of things going on. Right up here is where we're going to title our sermon. So I'm going to just call this Christ Died for You. And I've not spent much time thinking about the title, but that's where the title's going to go. And because Logos is integrated in all the different places, the more information you put about your sermon, the better it becomes searchable. You can have that information for later. So on the right hand side, we have this information panel, and how we open and close this is with the eye in the circle up here. Eye in the circle, so I can get rid of it and then have more room to write. But I always like to have it open when I start, because that's where I'm going to put my sermon information. So if this sermon is part of a series, that's going to go right there. You're just going to type it out and put it in the sermon. If you know this is a number within a series, second sermon in the series or fourth sermon in the series, you can put that information right there. Any topics can go right there. Passages, I always have my passage, so I'm going to write John 3:16. And I'm going to make sure that is in the passage section. This is important to put this information, because when you do searches later on, under like the My Document section, this is what's going to appear for you. So the more information you can put in Logos, the better it gets as far as research. You're going to have your own notes ready. You don't have to go do a bunch of searching in different places. Everything comes in the one place. If you want to tag your sermon, you're able to tag it with different tags. You can write a description. So sometimes I'll put like my thesis statement. What's the sermon about in one sentence? Goes in the description for me. If I have any private notes, and then right here, you're able to add any occasion. So I say the date that I'm going to be preaching it. That adds it to the preaching calendar. There's a calendar within the Sermon Manager. The venue where you preached at, what church, and then the service or time. And then you can add different occasions. that you preach that sermon, if you preach those multiple places. And then down here, you can say if an audience, a youth group, seniors, because I write my sermons in here, and sometimes I might preach to the general, like in a general adult, but sometimes I might preach to like a recovery ministry, and then I'll put that information in there. And then you can also, right here where it says links, you can add a link. So after the sermon is done, if there's a recording of it, whether a podcast or like a YouTube clip, a YouTube video, you can come and add that link and have it linked to the sermon, which is pretty cool. And then you can add the liturgical information if you are part of a liturgical church that uses the church calendar. Up here, we've got a couple options. On the left, you can have a sermon or a template. If you click on template, what's going to happen is this is actually going to save it as a template. And then up here, I would write like in parentheses, template. And the reason you might want templates is because you might have a wedding sermon a pretty standard wedding sermon that you use almost all the time, and you just need to update the names and maybe some of the illustrations. But you have a general outline, a general flow for a wedding, a funeral, things like that. You're able to use the Sermon Builder template, and it's going to create a template for you. And then you can pull it up later. You're going to pull that up in the Sermon Manager. So you can add templates to your schedule within the Sermon Manager, which we'll show in the other video. Right now, we're just worried on building the sermon, so we're going to keep it on the sermon. Up here, we've got 4 different icons. So we have the information. So this is all the sermon info. It's good to put all that information in there. We have the sermon notebook. So right here, you're going to have access to your notebooks, or you can create a new note. And what's cool about this is, like, I've got a notebook called This Week's Sermons. So I'm working on Sunday school for tomorrow. I'm teaching a lesson, and it's on Luke 17. So when you've got your notes here in your notebook, you're actually able to either edit it and go straight to that note, or you can actually just put in notes. I mean, did you see how easy that was? Just putting in notes in the sermon document, just with that little insert button. So if you've got, you can just begin to think how that might save you time in using these like the notebook to prepare, to make your notes, to study, to put together your outline, your main thoughts, and then you're able to just send that over into the sermon builder document. So very cool feature. All right, and then next to that we have the version history. This is perfect. I'll tell you why this is useful. Is I had written my sermon on my computer. One time I went to my iPad and tried to open the sermon on my iPad because I was going to preach, and for some reason it opened up a blank sermon builder document with that sermon. It didn't have my full notes, and then it updated it because I was on my iPad. It updated it, the whole sermon, to the blank document. And so when I went back on my computer, it was gone. And I think, oh, this is absolutely awful. And so the sermon was just gone in both places. Well, in the version history, you can actually bring up what you had before, just like a version history for Google Docs. You're going to be able to have that information. And then popular quotes. This is new with Logos 10. You can type in any word or phrase, and Logos is going to bring up a bunch of quotes. Some of them are going to be in your library. Some of them may be resources that you don't own yet, but it's as easy as dragging and dropping, and it's right there. That's as easy as it is. So the sermon builder. So that's the information panel, and the cool thing about this, when you drag and drop, it's going to automatically create slides based on what you put in there. So isn't that kind of cool? That you can do it that way. It's just putting on. Dragging and dropping, and then I want to delete that, but the idea is that you do automatic slide creation. So that's the information panel. Up here, our top tier on the toolbar, over here with the 3 lines, I think that's called a hamburger menu because it looks like a hamburger. Your outline is going to appear here, and anything that shows up in your outline is going to be based on your headings. So this is your heading menu. So you have normal text, headings 1 through 5, block quote, illustration, or prompt, and all those are going to be formatted a little bit differently within the text, but any headings that you have are going to show up right here in the outline. So we could have, I'm going to say heading 1, we'll say for God so loved. So we'll say that's heading 1, and notice that it showed up in the outline because it's heading 1. And then let's say we do kind of subpoints. So I'm going to say the world, and I'm going to make that heading 2. Notice that in here on the outline, you have heading 1 as the top tier, and then the world is indented a little bit. So as you move through the different headings, they're going to be like that within your outline. A great way to be able to organize your thoughts and to quickly move to different sections instead of just scrolling down. If you do write manuscripts, and let's say you write longer manuscripts, this document works just like a web browser. It also works like a Google Doc. Just for Windows, Control F, it's going to bring up a search bar, and you're going to be able to search the word that you need, and it will find it. And it's just, I've used that all the time when I know there's a part that I want to go back to and work on, and I use this word, but I can't seem to find it in the manuscript. You can get it that way. All right, next to the edit, we have text. So this is this is gonna be the text, but it's not gonna show up things that are in your handout, your questions, or your slides. This is kind of like your form manuscript without all the other stuff that you can get within the text or the edit section. Slides, that's where your slides are going to automatically show up, and look at what happened. Automatic slide creation for headings. And then that quote, and even though I deleted that slide is still showing up. So I'm going to show you how to delete that in just a minute because you can't do it from the slides section. And then anything you have in the handout, so handout and questions, your headings are going to show up in the handout section. And so and you can, I'll show you in just when we get to that menu, I'll show you how you can remove headings from the handout and questions document. All right, so that's that. And let's talk about slides for a minute. Let's say you want to delete slides, and let's say you want to see your slides on the edit section, this edit menu. To do that, you're going to go to the 3 dots here and go to show slides, and then your slides are going to be right there on the left hand side. I usually don't have them. I work on them. If I use this feature, I use them at the very end of my sermon building process. But to delete, you just right click on any of the slides, delete, and then it's going to be no longer in the slide menu. So you could say we want to delete, I don't want slides for the headings. Well, they are deleted, and now they're not going to show up in the slides section. So that's one thing to know about the slides, and you can always just turn that on and off by clicking on slides, and then they're gone. And so yeah, so we're going to edit, and then up here we have all of our different formatting options. So let's go over that. This one we've already talked about. Each of these are going to be a little bit different. So we've talked about headings. If we do block quote, it's going to be a certain kind of shade. And then if we come down here and do an illustration, it's going to be a little bit different color. So let's see if you can show that just a little bit better. It's going to be hard. But we could do illustrations. And then if we want to do like the prompt is going to be just a little bit different. So you can see you've got block quote, illustrations, and prompt. And so those are the big formatting, the big different kind of sections that you can do, headings, block quote, illustration, prompt. To the right of that is where you get your the different fonts and size. This is not nearly as extensive as like for people like to write in crazy fonts and sermons. This document is not for you. It's pretty simplistic, but it's pretty cool, I think, what you get to do. So you get to have a font size, so small, medium, large, extra large, 2XL, and I always use the medium. You can have a text color, and then you can have a background color. And the reason I like having a background color, because once you have it chosen, you can actually have like one of these boxes up here. We'll do 2X, save search. And then it's going to be easy to use that save style. So I type in God loves the world, just like that. It's because we're on that style. If I select that and go here and say, hey, no, I want it like this, and now it's going to show up like that with medium text, or maybe large text and a blue background. And for me, I would do this when I knew I had a slide change. So I had different kind of fonts set up to indicate to me things that I knew were coming in the sermon, like slide changes. So yeah, you can use this font menu and just save your fonts. I think you maybe get 5 that you can save and quickly go through it. If you ever want to get rid of the formatting, there's a clear formatting button right here. Click on it, and then all that is gone. And so yeah, it's not a lot of options, but for me, it was always what I'd used in like a normal word processor, so it wasn't that big a deal to not have different font types. And but you can do color, size, and then you can save those styles up here by just clicking on it, making your selection, saving style, and then it will be there. And then when you like grab this text right here, go to this menu, let's say I want it like that style, it's going to automatically update it to that style. So we will clear that out. All right, so after that, clear that. There we go. All right, after that, we have bold, italics, underline, and then we do fill in the blank. So we can go here, and I'm going to do fill in the blank, just like that. And what's cool about that is, let me skip over to these sections because this is where this comes into play. So we have the include in handout and include in questions. So what that means is I'm going to highlight what I've got here in my edit section, and I'm going to include it in the handout, include it in the questions. Notice that it doesn't show up in the text document. This is where it can kind of get confusing. It does show up in the handout section because we clicked on the handout button, and right here you can hide the answers for that printable or copy and paste it. You can have that answer shown, and then it's going to show up in the handout section. The solution for this is if you want it to show up in your text right here, your final manuscript form, you need to type it twice. So we'll do God loves the world. And notice Logos already has a different color. And so you're going to be able to see the difference. One's going to show up right there. One's going to show up right there in the edit section. The other is going to show up in the text section. But those are what those buttons are right there. So the one on the left is if you want to include information in the handout. Doesn't matter what it is. Just Christ died for you. I mean, it matters what it is, but it doesn't matter what you type. If you want it in there, you can go to the include handout, and then right there, it's going to show up in your handout. But when it's in a handout or the question, it's not going to show up in the text. So keep that in mind. But that's how you add information to either the handout document or the question document. All right, after we have fill in the blank and we have these handout question, we've got bulleted list item. So if you need a list of something, just like a normal word processor, you have a numbered list item. So instead of bullet list, you get a numbered list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get indent and increase indent. So if you need to move information over a little bit, you can increase that indent. You have, again, your handout button, your question button. You have your undo button, your redo button, which are helpful if you ever need to like undo something and then redo it. That's what those buttons are. This right here, these two buttons have to do with slides. And as you can see, one is grayed out. The one on the other is add slides from selected text. So that does exactly what it says. I want to grab this text. I want to click on this button, add slides from selected text. And then let's go to our slide menu. It is creating that slide right there automatically. And you might notice that one has a picture, like this blue and green stuff here, and this one is just plain. Um, why? Well, in Logos, a lot of times you're going to have like a title screen that's going to show up in headings, which is this one. And then along with that, you're going to have another kind of slide that has more like white space. You're going to have more area to add text. So that's why you have the two differences, and that's an automatic thing in Logos. I'll show you how to edit the slides here in just a moment. But that's that one. You just click on it right there, or you highlight it, and you add slides. I'm going to open up the slides right here. And then as you can see, it automatically creates that slide. So that's one thing it does when it automatically creates slide. The other way to automatically create slides is just type in your text. So I'll type in John 3:16, hit enter. Did you see that? That's probably my favorite feature about the Sermon Builder is when you type in a verse and hit enter, it automatically adds that verse. And you can update the translation here, and you can also update it. You can get in there and edit it. But notice, let me go to that slide menu so you can see a better look. Look at that. It's got a slide designed just for scripture that has the scripture, the what verses is, and what translation it is. So that's how you you do all that. And yeah, I love that you can create slides on the fly like that. The button next to that is going to let you add slides based on Bible references in your text that aren't a time that you wrote the text and click entered and did an automatic slide creation with the text. That sounds complicated. Let's go through it. So I could say in John 3:16, God showed his love for us by sending Jesus. Now I wrote John 3:16 right there, but there's no slide. So how do we get a slide? That's what this button is for. When you highlight over this and then you come up here, now it's no longer grayed out. When I click on that, it automatically creates that slide and that Bible reference. And so it's an easy way. I'm going to delete that, and then the slide is gone. But yeah, that easy way. This is also good, like if you're writing a paragraph with 3 or 4 verses and you know you're going to want those verses there. So we could say, in John 3:16 and John 3:17, John explains. Can't have that like that. In John 3:17, John explains his point. So now I've got 2 verses. I'm going to highlight all that, come up here. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to create two slides, and it's going to show up there in your text. But the important thing is it's going to show up in your slide menu by creating slides automatically. And then over here we have the clear formatting. Is anytime you do a formatting and then you want to clear it, you're going to clear it. So a couple more things before we wrap up, because we're coming up to the really 25-minute mark. Down here at the bottom, you get a word count. Not only that, but you get a expected time that it would take to preach this sermon, and at a kind of what I consider an average reading pace if you read it word for word. If you use this feature, and I do all the time, I've learned that that is not right for me, because I have kind of a soft manuscript, and so it's not like it's not the same. But I've been able to learn, that amount of time. So if I've got like a 20-minute sermon down there, that may take me 30 minutes to preach. And I'm really working on like a 20-minute sermon. So I'm trying to get in like that 14 to 15-minute range down at the bottom. And then I know, that's going to be about 20 minutes. And so up here at the top, you also have a share. So you can share this to a group within Faith Life. You can make it public, and it'll go to the Logos Sermon website database. You can, when you preach it, so let me pull this down on that preach menu. So if you ever want to preach from your computer, I click that preach button and opened up a a web browser, and then we get, and this is going to be the same on whether you're on like the iPad or another tablet. You have this countdown timer, so you can say, hey, I want to preach 20 minutes, and then you can have flash 1 to 2 minute warnings, which has just been fantastic for me. So it's got a countdown going on. It's got that editable, the text that we use, the verses, it's got all the things. And up here, you can see your slides right there. And then right here with this button, you can either have it paging or scrolling. So like a book back and forth, or just scroll through it. The font size, the line spacing, the margins. And then if you use Proclaim, Faith Life's Logos's, I don't think they're using Faith Life anymore. If you use Logos's Proclaim software, you can control the slides through the app, through the website, through the iPad. Very cool stuff. So yeah, that is the Preach button. Export is where you can export it. You can send it to Proclaim, the software. You can post it to Logos Sermons. So kind of double duty for the share button. Export to PowerPoint. So that will actually export just the slides to PowerPoint. And then your print, and that will print. That's where you can print the document. You can also go to the print menu, the print button right there, and then choose what printer you want. Let's say, and this will be the last thing before we go, let's say you want to update your slides. How do you update your slides? Well, you're going to want to have the slides open in the edit section, slide it, edit it, right click it. There it is. You're going to right click on edit, and then this is where we get to choose. So we're going to find media, and then we get to see different sorts of slides that we can use. But I made a mistake. I want to edit this one, the heading slide, because then I'm going to get my different heading slides, and it will automatically update the other ones to this style. So let's do that. Let's say I like this one, and yep, right there, and right here you could even add your reference, so you can have your title slide, so to speak. You could take, I don't want template in there anymore, and you could add a subheader. You could say whatever it is. So it's right there. Now we want to update media. So this is going to update this media. And notice you've got like font stuff here that you can play around with. But we're going to update media. And then notice that slide is updated, but the others aren't. What do? You right click on it and you say apply this style to all slides. Now all those slides have that same style. So when we go to our slide menu, look at that. I mean, so for someone, again, I just did all the background work on those slides, and that took, 5 seconds? Just picking a picture that I liked, updating the media, and then making sure I update to all slides in the edit section of the Sermon Builder. I mean, come on. It's good stuff. So this in a nutshell is the Sermon Builder document. I hope it's been helpful. If you have any questions further, feel free to email me at preacherpreparation.com, and then be on the lookout for another video about the Sermon Manager, because these two features interact together. So thanks for watching, and until next time.